6 customers to your doorstep. Do you mind giving them $25 loans? And you don't need to give me a thank you card. They did their risk analysis and said, well, these guys are too risky to give loans to, and refused. And he said, what is this? Why won't they get loans? So because they came from his village, he gave each of them a $25 loan. 3 things happened. First, he got his money back with 10% interest. He made a lot of money. He said, wow, what is this? Number 2, he realized that the corporate world has divided this planet in 2 parts. The population of the planet is 7.5 billion people. And this is divided between 5 billion and 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion rich who can consume what they want, and 5 billion poor who are told what you can consume and what you cannot consume. And he said, in theory of economics, you succeed only when you can convert the non-consumers to consumers. That's when we say the per capita steel consumption in India is here, whereas the per capita steel consumption in North America is here. What we are not talking about is how to consume, how to convert the non-consumers of steel to steel. He said, I will start a commercial bank. And I will do exactly opposite to what the most successful commercial bank in Bangladesh does. They have fancy branches in cities. I have my operations in rural areas. They give loans to men. I will give loans to women. They give loans in excess of $1,000. I will give a loan of maximum $25. And this is how he started the Grameen Bank. Grameen stands for rural, for village, in 1983. And for the last 44 years, Grameen Bank has dispensed loans in excess of $16 billion in increments of $25 each. Make no mistakes, the only year Grameen Bank did not make money was 1983, the day it was founded. Professor Muhammad Yunus got a Nobel Prize in 2004 for what we call a microfinance revolution. I asked him, and this is I'm editing a story because I spent on a transatlantic flight 8 hours ago. I asked him, what was your dream when you did this? He said, my dream is to eradicate poverty. I want to create a museum of poverty. So that 50 years down the line, when there's a child who asks, what is poverty? I should be able to take him to that museum and show him what poverty is. Can we dream in this country? And this is what my presentation is all about. What are we dreaming? So that we can create a museum of success for steel industry in India. And tomorrow when someone says, well, how was steel produced and how did you convert these consumers, non-consumers to consumers, we probably can take them to that museum. I asked Professor Muhammad Yunus, what is your latest venture? He said, well, I've left Grameen Bank and I have a small experiment. And the experiment is, there are a lot of beggars in Bangladesh. And they beg. And there's no surety how much money they make when they beg. So I went to one of these marketplaces and I offered the 500 beggars and told them, I'll give you $10. You go and buy some groceries, flowers, milk, bread, anything that people need in the morning, in the daytime, and go and sell. You go to beg each and every house. Why don't you become a salesman too? Guess, in 6 months, how many beggars he enrolled? Any guesses? 500,000. Of 500,000 beggars, 250,000 finally said, well, selling is not our cup of tea, begging is our cup of tea, we'll remain beggars. A quarter of them said, look, we'll be salesmen because now we make money and we have more respect and we can go and deliver groceries because we get this leveraging from you. And the balance said, well, some houses are good for begging and some houses are good for selling. So we'll pick and choose what we do. So it doesn't take for a person to become a consumer of steel to go to college. It's not a propaganda that we can do on a digital platform to consume and say that non-consumer will start consuming steel more. The question is, what is the future? If we did not anticipate export duty coming in India, if we did not anticipate windfall taxes on oil and gas coming to India, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 to 5 years, you will experience a tsunami of such decisions coming our way. And if you're not prepared, the pandemic taught us, it will be reset to abnormality. And this is what my presentation is all about. Let us take a pledge at the end of the presentation. Coated metal, current scenario, and future tense. What do we do with coated metal? Typically, I talk about flat steel. Flat steel, galvanized, galvalume, coated with metal, coated with paint, what we call pre-painted steel. It's a great industry, but if you look at statistics, pre-painted steel industry has grown by 200%, galvanizing industry has grown by 20%. So definitely the future is pre-painted steel. Why is it pre-painted steel? Why do we say it? So the agenda, as I say, I'll divide in 4 parts. The first agenda will be very, very blunt. Question is, why more zinc? Zinc is a natural resource. Aluminum is a natural resource. Nickel is a natural resource. What are we doing here? What are we going to tell our future generation? If we drink all the water in the rivers, if we cut all the trees in our forest, if we leave for the new generation nothing to thrive upon, is that what we call achievement? And take this very seriously. If you do not, in 2 to 5 years, there will be a brown tax imposed on steel industries, and the biggest sufferers will be India and China. Because all that matters today in the world is India and China. We are on the consumptive side of products, and if we do not change our thoughts, there will be absolute calamity. What was the price of a solar power generated electricity 10 years back? Any guesses? The government of India used to tender solar power projects. 10 years back, what was the price of electricity per unit? Any guess?
14
It was in
rupees.
excess of 11 rupees a unit. What is the price today?
2 rupees.
It is lower than 2 rupees a unit today. What changed? Is the conversion or the yield factor of a silicon germanium cell that converts sun rays into electricity, did that explode? Of course not. It's the ecosystem. So make no mistakes, steel and cement are the biggest carbon emitters in the world. They are the single most disrespected industry in the world. Like it or not, we are in the middle of it. And if we do not make innovations today, and this is the right time we can make innovations, and why should we not? Let's be very sure about it. The first agenda will be why more zinc. Second agenda will be green steel, necessity or myth. Third will be digital printing. And the fourth will be a pledge we take. We start with why more zinc. There is a thought process which is embedded in us, which says the more zinc we apply, the more corrosion resistant steel will be. How true is that in today's context? This thought process was a thought process of the 1960s, when technology was not anyway close to where it is today. Technology was not even in its infancy. Why does this thought process apply today? Because the steel that we make is a lead steel. The steel that we make today bleeds on natural resources. So are we filling our coffers on something that is absolutely naturally criminal in nature? Is a question I want all of you to ask yourself. It's a very simple question. So the science of reducing coated steel corrosion. We are in the business of protection. Whether we coat zinc, galvalume, pre-painted steel, we are in the business of protection. Like a king protects a kingdom, a mother protects a child, a CEO protects an organization. Similarly, coatings of different type protect steel. So essentially, the flat products that we use today are nothing but the business of protection. Make no mistakes about it. And what is the analogy? If you were the king of Saudi Arabia, and you had the largest oil reserves under your command, how would you see oil? Would you see oil as something that generates revenue? Or would you see oil as something that gives you strength to ensure that you get groceries, milk, bread, safety and security for your kingdom? How would you view oil? Protection analogy, a king protects a kingdom. A mother protects her children. A father protects his family. A CEO protects his organization. And coatings and paints protect steel. Make no mistakes, we put coatings in steel because they protect steel. And where did this come from? This came from a series of necessity-driven exercises started in the 1880s when the first rail line was established from Pittsburgh to New York. It was called the Central Rail Line. It was owned by a great entrepreneur. And because it was called the Central Line, out of the philanthropy, he donated all his profits. That's why New York